Hey guys, what's up? It's Matt from the Cowboys Geelong. Today I'm going to show you my Enel deck list that I topped with last night. So let's get started. First off, we're going to look at my two Shures. So this card on play allows us to look at the top 5 cards of our deck and add a Sky Island card. Its trigger allows us to play it, so basically we can get off life and straight up just look up for a Sky Island card. I find this card very useful. I just prefer to play it at 2 though. Reason is that I don't want to bottom deck all my high cost stuff. Unfortunately, they're not Sky Island, and I do require them to play the game, such as 9 cost Yamato, Natawano, and 8 cost Katakuri being Big Mom Pirates. So I don't want to use Shura too much and bottom deck the wrong cards. But I do really like this at 2. You're happy to play it more than 2. I just find that the ratios wise towards my deck, I don't want to bottom deck any wrong cards. But yeah, let's get on with it. Next up, our next card to add more is Shura Hoshi. So, on play, she will draw 3 cards, trash 2 cards. Her trigger allows the player from live, and she's a 1k counter. I am completely in love with this card. I find this extremely useful for this deck. It lets us fix up our hands if we've got no counter. It lets us just draw into the right cards, and I just find it very useful. It's a great 8 cost Katakuri target to just keep putting back to life and just keep drawing. But yeah, I find it very useful, and it's my favorite card in this deck. Next up, we're going to look at 2k counters. So first off, I'm playing 4 Beige. Beige, straight up trigger, just goes a leader can't swing or a character can't swing. It's a 2k counter, and yeah, I find it very useful at 4. This card just comes in clutch a lot of the times, and then just getting it off in general can piss off an opponent. Next up, we're playing 4 Story. So this is from the new set. It basically just allows us to trash a card to play it. It's a 5k swinger. It's a 2k counter card. I find it extremely useful as 2k counter in hand, and then just getting on life just for board pressure is just great. Next up, go look at my blocker choices. So first up, we're playing 2 Brule. This card is a 3 cost, 1k counter, and on trigger, plays this card for free. So you're not using any cards to actually bring it out. It's just I find it very useful, and I don't want to basically trash too many cards from hand because I need it. I think it's very useful to actually have still cards in hand. But you know, it's the reason I'm playing Brule. But then I'm playing 3 Sanjis. So, on trigger, it will play this card from life by trashing a card. It's a 1k counter. It's a 4 cost blocker with 5k attack. I really like this card, but I prefer not to waste too much of my hand bringing out triggers from life. That's why I'm playing 2 Brules, but I find this card very good. It's just my ratios in my deck. I find it just better at 3 with 2 Brules, so I've got 5 blockers total coming from life. Next up, Holy. We all love the dog combo, and I'd prefer to maximize it by playing 4 of Holy and 4 of Arm. So this card allows us to play Holy from hand, but first off we search top 5 cards, add a Holy, and play a Holy from hand. I find this card just crazy, but I prefer not to play Ohm unless I have a Holy already in hand, or I'll take the risk and look for a Holy in deck. This card is also really crazy. So when you're at 2 or less life, it will go straight up to 6k. So it just makes a bigger boy if we're going at less life. Next up is 3 Gidatsu. So Gidatsu's effect will let us pop a card equal to our opponent's life. I find this very good, but I'll only play around it at the start of the game if it's in my starting hand. I will choose not to go aggro so I can pop a high cost target, and then I'll focus on pushing afterwards. Next up, my last 2k counters. This is more of a choice just because I'm playing Shura. I'm playing 2 Connors. So it's a 2k counter. I don't use its effect at all because it requires a stage. We're not playing any stages in this deck. So I find it's very useful as a Shura target, and it's just 2k counter, equaling 10 2k counters in this deck. Next up, we're going to look at more why I'm saying this is an aggressive deck list. So I'm playing 2 of 4 cost Katakuri. For you guys who don't know what its effect is, it allows us to look at the top of our life or our opponent's life, put it at the top and bottom of the life pool, and then if we have less life, we'll gain rush. So this is a 6k swinger basically if we have less life. We typically will take life very easily in Enel, but I find this card very good for like the slam back aggression. Overall, I think this deck list is a very much more controlling and aggressive deck list depending on what your starting hand is. If you're playing around to go around Gadatsu, or you're going to play aggressive due to your category in hand. Then we're just going to move on to more aggressive cards, such as 7 cost Rush Enel. This card is just very annoying to remove. It will allow, if we want to keep on field, we can just trash a card if they waste removal for it. It's a 7k swinger, so this card's just great to play straight up and swing with. Next up, probably my most favorite card, just because it allows us to do so much, 8 cost Katakuri. This card allows us to put an 8 cost or less on the top or bottom of our opponent's or our life. So I typically will only use this for Shirahoshi or a blocker if I want to assure that I have enough life. And in Enel, we'll typically can get to 0. If we, as soon as we reset our life to 1, we're basically going to 2 life. So we're going to use Katakuri to put a card in our life, so we're basically just always going back to 2, which is just crazy. But we're getting more benefit from Katakuri in this deck list compared to other ones, in my opinion. But yeah, we have a lot of good targets, but I typically will use Katakuri for the Shirahoshi so we can keep triggering and drawing a card, because we initially just get a +1, but just fixing up our hand each time depending on what's going on through the game. Next up is our main boss monster of the deck. It is 9 cost Yamato. So it will pop a card equal to the combination of both yours and your opponent's life. I find this very good if you're playing the long slow game where you just pop a probably 4 to 5 cost is typically what I've seen people pop it with. But you know, if you're really into late game and you just got heaps of life, like this card can just straight up pop a 10 cost or less. But yeah, its other effect is when you're on 1 or less life, you will gain another life. This is very good for our Enel strat. We'll typically go to 1 life easily, but yeah, 9 cost Yamato, just straight up useful. Both these cards giving us life back is very good for Enel, because we're an extra life. We're just always going to be an extra life on Enel, and we can just keep abusing the effects that give us life. We're just going to have an easy game. Next up, alright, I'm playing 3 200,000 volts. This card is just great for aggressiveness. I love using it with 4 cost Katakuri, I love using it with Enel. It's just straight up push for pressure. And when you're on 1 life, you get to rest a 4 cost or less and give a 3k to like any character or leader. I find it's just really crazy. I think you get way more than your Don value for this card, because you get plus 3k, which is already going up from 2. And you know, its trigger actually does come in clutch sometimes. So you may trash 2 cards, add 1 life on top of card of your life. If you're really desperate on, like if you got too many swings coming at you, I really like triggering this just to get the extra life and pissing off my opponent. Next up, playing 3 Thunderbolts. So you can trash a life to K up 1 character with a cost of 5 or less. Its trigger just basically pops a 5 cost or less, but without trashing the life. Find it very useful. This will remove blockers, this will remove blockers, and yeah, we've got our cards that will swing with Rush. I find it very useful in this deck, but I would prefer to only play at 3 just because we've got the ratios of 200,000 volts and all this stuff. But you know what, in Enel, it doesn't necessarily matter if you don't have cards with counter, because you've got the life ability. Cards with like no counter are very useful as just trash for gaining another life. But yeah, so my matchups last night were Whitebeard, Sakazuki, Betty, and Enel. In my Whitebeard and Sakazuki matches, I find that Katakuri comes very much clutch. This is just straight up free swing at Whitebeard, and I find it very useful into Sakazuki matchup. If you're playing the long game, of course your opponent's going to be on more life. So I find that just using this for the final few pushes, so last night I was able to go 2 cost event and 4 cost Karakuri, playing this first, checking what's in their life, and then I played this to rest their only blocker, and swung 3 times with my Yamato, Katakuri, and 200,000 volts. YP matchup, basically used this to get the free swing in and focused on my 2 swings with my less cost characters into their board already, causing them to waste a lot of counter, and just getting cards out of YP's hands I find very useful. Into the betting matchups, I found more of the Yamato Gidatsu very useful, just for controlling board and popping any cards coming out. I'll typically use this in the betting matchup just to pop anything. I'll play slow at the start, pop anything that's coming out of life, and then focus at the end, just pushing through, using 200,000 volts to rest any blocker Sanjis or something they will get from life. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this deck list at the moment, but I would like to see any suggestions. I do like my ratios at the moment, but they can be easily changed out if you guys want to play a little bit differently. But I do like this. It has a nice aggressiveness as well as much control. But yeah, this has been Matt from the Cowboys Geelong. Hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, stay tuned for more content coming up, guys. Thank you and good night.